G'day everyone, welcome to another Cyclone Chasers Cyclone video update today, the 19th of January 2016. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update is sponsored by our major sponsor, Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. Subscribers, before we start, just letting you know, if you click on our weather centre and head down here, we have now introduced the Mackay radar to add to all of the radars that we already have. So Mackay, you'll find, is the last option because it is the newest option. So you've got a 256 and a 64K radar there to have a look at. Alright folks, let's have a look at what's happening over the Australian region. We can see generally a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity through central parts of Australia due to deep troughing. You can also see just before night time there was a lot of cloud streaming away towards the coast here of Queensland. There is no rain in that whatsoever. The thunderstorm activity is located well inland here, and that cloud streaming towards the coast was the anvils from that thunderstorm activity that was present and prominent in inland parts of Queensland. Alright, further to the west we have, as I mentioned, a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity associated with a trough system through the inland parts of Australia, then another trough system associated with this low pressure centre located near Perth, bringing in showers and thunderstorms in large parts of the southern half of WA. Now this is quite unusual for that time of year, for that period, for that area, this time of year. I'll try and get those words right. Elsewhere across the tropics, it is absolutely benign. It is so boring, it is just dreadful. Almost perfect tropics weather. And that would be okay if it was June or July, but it's not. It's the middle of our wet season, and it's just not happening for us. Let's have a look at where the rain has fallen over the past week. Thanks to the Bureau of Meteorology here, the week's rainfall, we can see Mackay had a nice little burst there of 24-hour rainfall totals, somewhere between 50 and 100 millimetres in a very isolated pocket. The the southeastern Gulf country here, over northern Queensland, received some pretty decent rainfall as well in shower and thunderstorm activity. The thing with this rainfall, folks, is because it's coming from shower and thunderstorm activity, is that it's very patchy. It means that one property might have got 100 mils, the other property might have got 2, and that's the problem when we have this shower and thunderstorm type rainfall, is that it's very hit and miss, and a lot of places, in fact more places, miss than hit. Over the Northern Territory, we've got pretty dreadful conditions for this time of year as well. Once again, very hit and miss type rainfall from convective activity associated with trough systems. Probably the only widespread shower and thunderstorm activity has been across much of the Kimberley region, and the East Kimberley region in particular, where we've seen widespread shower and thunderstorm activity there. We've had a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity also around the Pilbara and the Gascoyne regions, but not much of that has actually hit populated areas. A lot of it, once again, hit and miss is my word of the night, or words of the night. And a lot of this stuff is developing within a stone's throw of the coast, but the steering winds are pushing it all inland, and so the coast is just ever so slightly missing out. Look, there are some positive signs that Onslow may receive some rainfall in the next few days, associated with a bit of a surge of moisture coming in from the Indian Ocean. We're not exactly sure if that's going to be Onslow though, or whether it might be Karratha, or whether it might be a little bit further west towards Exmouth. But in this region, one part of this Pilbara coast or Gascoyne coastline could be receiving some reasonable rainfall. And also worthwhile noting that the southwestern parts of WA, the same areas that really got hammered by those bushfires, unfortunately, have now received a complete out-of-season rainfall. 50 to 100 millimetres in this region in January, pretty unheard of. It doesn't happen very often, especially in the space of a few days. It's just unfortunate for them that it's happened after the bushfires rather than when they really needed it. Mother Nature's version of a very cruel joke, I'm sure. Looking at some pretty cool thunderstorm activity happening around Darwin this evening, and this was taken by our admin, James Pickett, from his driveway almost, looking out to the east and southeast of Darwin itself. And this will be the order of the day for the Northern Territory and for much of inland Queensland. These showers and thunderstorms, very isolated and patchy through much of the interior, a bit more scattered over the Northern Territory, but this will be the order of the day for probably the next week or so across large parts of Northern Australia. East of the dateline, we have the raggedy remnants of a once awesome looking tropical cyclone, a very sexy looking tropical cyclone. It doesn't look anywhere near as sexy anymore. You can see this very large eye in the center of it. The convection, while it's still there, it's probably nowhere near as strong. In fact, it isn't. Not probably. It isn't anywhere near as strong as it was, say, 24 hours ago. This ex-sexy cyclone is located in the southwest Pacific to the east of Tonga. Now, the expectation is that the system will track just south of Tonga. It is moving westwards. Have no fear. I know there's been some fear-mongering amongst some pages saying that this is around about the same area that Yassi developed. No, it's not. It's about 1,000 kilometres further to the east of where Yassi developed and about 1,000 kilometres further to the south of where Yassi developed. It is nowhere near, nothing like Yassi, and was never going to be. So please, if you've ever read that, just go back on that page, or whoever you heard it from, and tell them it's a bunch of garbage. All right, so it's going to move west over the next couple of days and then track southwards. It will weaken over the course of time as it's moving into an area that is much more unfavourable for development. There is still some threat here to Tonga because some of the computer models do move it a little bit further to the west-northwest. But look, even if it does move a little bit further to the west-northwest, it's expected to do so as a weakening cyclone. It's already looking quite rubbishy at the moment, quite raggedy. So it's not something I'd be overly concerned about. Of course, Category 2 is nothing to be sneezed at, especially in a fairly poor nation like Tonga. But in general, the other positive with this is that it's going to be moving at 15 to 20 kilometres an hour as it moves through. So the system won't create those really strong and really severe conditions for very long through any particular area. So hopefully, as I say, the track here from the JTWC is correct and the system does track to the south of Tonga. But look, there is a massive error margin and this is one of the things you'll probably have noticed straight away when you looked at this map. Huge error margin in terms of where this thing could be, even out to 72 hours definitely, but even out to 120 hours. It could be all the way through extratropical transitioning into a polar system, or it could still be tracking westwards here in the southwest Pacific. So folks, there's a lot of error with this system, but the good news, as I said, expect it to be weakening no matter what it does. Got another tropical low way out there in the Indian Ocean. It's not going to affect Australia once again. It's developing well west of Australia, so well west of our area of responsibility. It's about 3,000, 4,000 kilometres away from the WA mainland region, not coming towards us. It might eventually start to track to the east as it begins its extratropical transition phase. But look, that's probably not going to happen for 7 to 10 days. And by that stage, we're already starting to look a little bit closer to home for some homegrown threats towards the early part of February. No real signs of a monsoon, at least in the next week to 10 days. So after that, though, it does get a little bit more interesting. And in our subscriber update, I did go through what is interesting about it. But for the next 7 to 10 days, look, folks, there's nothing really to worry about in terms of any monsoonal incursions in the Australian region. What we do have here over the next 4 days, fairly deep troughing across central parts of Australia, creating showers and thunderstorms, also extending into southwestern parts of Queensland, into New South Wales as well. Some isolated to scattered showers along the Cassowary Coast, North Tropical Coast region up here in Queensland, but the rest of Queensland is going to be quite stable under the influence of a weak ridge. Over the 4-day period after that, things do get a little bit more interesting, and you can see here an increase in shower and thunderstorm activity across northern Queensland. Also the possibility, just a hint of a possibility of maybe a weak low developing near the coast here of southeast Queensland, southeast to the Hervey Bay region of Queensland, and that creates an enhanced area of shower and rain and thunderstorm activity here over the southern to southeastern parts of the state. Now that's not set in stone, of course, because it's in the 4 to 8 day period. Across the Kimberley, we see an increase in shower and thunderstorm activity, and we continue to see shower and thunderstorm activity over the northern half of Northern Territory. Across Western Australia, we'll continue to see showers and thunderstorms developing, in fact redeveloping, and moving back to the west and south through the interior parts of the Pilbara and the interior parts of the Gascoyne region. Once again, unfortunately, not too much of that is making it to the coast. The best chance the coast will see of some shower and thunderstorm activity is if it develops right on the coast and just as it's moving inland, or as it starts moving inland, particularly those southern and eastern suburbs of your particular location could be in with a chance at least the beginnings of the shower or thunderstorm. Total forecast rainfall over the next week. Now, it's not quite, certainly not totally wet season-ish, this map, but it's starting to get closer than it has been for the past week. So we are starting to see 50 to 100 millimetre falls expected over widespread areas here in the western half of the Northern Territory and the Kimberley regions, possibly over the northern inland parts of Queensland too, and even the western parts of the peninsula, or at least the southwestern parts of the peninsula, in with a chance at seeing some meaningful rainfall. But in general, folks, it's still nowhere near what we need it to be, considering that January is, across Australia, the wettest month of the year. Now, there is some good news. There is some light at the end of this dry tunnel, that in the start of February, we're expecting to see a resurgence of the MJO. Now, obviously, there are errors associated with looking this far ahead, but certainly it looks positive at the start of February for the MJO to reappear over the maritime continent. Now, remember, the Australian area is this Area 4, Area 5, Area 6 is where the MJO has the maximum impact on Australia, particularly Area 5 and Area 6. Once it gets into Phase 7 or Area 7, we start to see minimal or minimising impacts. And of course, where the MJO is now, and you can see where the MJO is now, it's in Area 3 or Phase 3, in between Phase 2 and 3. In fact, it actually creates and promotes dry weather across northern Australia. So hopefully it dies very shortly and then has a rebirth over the top of Australia. And therefore, we are expecting to see a fairly wet, maybe not exactly the start of February, but we're expecting to see a fairly wet end of the first week and certainly into the second week of February, expecting to see a lot of moisture pushing into northern Australia associated with a resurgence of the monsoon trough. And it goes without saying, we are expecting to see tropical lows develop in that time frame as well. Thanks for watching this Aussie Cyclones update. We'll have another one for you on the 26th of January. Keep an eye on our Facebook update on Thursday night. I'll have a very brief update here on the Goldfield Ashes. I know a lot of you every year like to tune in. Australia's biggest cricket carnival, located in the metropolis of Charters Towers, northern inland Queensland region. And I'm sure a lot of you will be interested in the weather for that weekend. So make sure you keep an eye on our Facebook posts Thursday night, probably around 6 or 7 p.m. Just a reminder, folks, if you want to start accessing our weather centre and you want to start accessing these videos in greater detail and depth, please hit subscribe to OCC. You'll help us document more tropical cyclones, and you'll help yourselves by getting access to a lot more information and the weather centre, which is going to be quite cool very, very shortly. Cost us $34.95 every 12 months. And, of course, you can cancel at any time. Thanks for watching this update. Talk to you again Thursday night. Otherwise, I'll talk to you again next Tuesday.